Listen closely, because what you're about to hear is not the clean, church press release version you've been fed. This is the version the internet streets are whispering about. Don't blink. Don't scroll. Because fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the timeline just is not adding up. 1 minute, a high-profile lawsuit is shaking the faith community and the hip-hop blogs at the same time, and the next minute? Silence. Lawsuit dropped. No long explanation. No victory lap. No apology tour. Just gone. So the question everybody's asking right now is simple, but dangerous. Why would Bishop T.D. Jakes really walk away from a legal fight that had everyone watching? And why now? See, the blogs say one thing. The statements say another. But behind closed doors, according to people close to the situation, tensions were boiling over, alliances were shifting, and certain conversations were never meant to see the light of day. Fans are confused. Critics are suspicious. Supporters are divided. And Duane Youngblood's name? Still ringing in the air like an unanswered call. Some say this was about faith. Others say it was about family. And a few believe there's a whole different reason nobody wants to say out loud. Stay right here, because once you hear how this really unfolded, you might never look at this situation the same way again. The moment the lawsuit vanished from the docket, people close to the situation say the energy shifted instantly. One day, the blogs were counting down to depositions, leaked texts, and a courtroom showdown that promised to shake both the church world and the culture. The next day, it was like someone hit mute. Bishop T.D. Jakes, a man known for never backing down from a challenge, suddenly pulled back. And that silence? It spoke louder than any sermon. Sources claim that in the weeks leading up to the lawsuit being dropped, pressure was building from every direction. Not just legal pressure, but emotional pressure. Spiritual pressure. Family pressure. One insider whispered that the bishop was not just fighting a legal battle, he was fighting an internal one. Late nights. Closed-door meetings. Phone calls that stretched into the early morning hours. Fans were shocked when the news broke, but those behind the scenes say the tension had been brewing for a long time. According to people who claim to have been in the room, the first crack appeared when advisors began warning that this lawsuit was becoming bigger than the original dispute with Duane Youngblood. One advisor allegedly said, "This isn't about winning anymore. This is about what comes out if you keep going." That sentence alone set off alarms. Because in lawsuits like this, discovery is never friendly. Emails get pulled. Messages get read out loud. Old conversations resurface. And suddenly, private history becomes public theater. Duane Youngblood, for his part, was reportedly not backing down either. People around him say he felt cornered, betrayed, and determined to tell his side no matter the cost. One source close to Youngblood claimed he was saying, "If they think I'm going to fold quietly, they don't know me." Emotions ran high, and the energy between both camps grew more hostile by the day. It wasn't just lawyers talking anymore. It was personal. As the lawsuit gained traction online, reactions poured in. Fans split down the middle. Some stood firmly behind the bishop, calling the lawsuit a distraction, a test of faith, or even an attack on the church. Others questioned why things felt so rushed and so quiet. Comments flooded social media asking the same thing over and over: what are we not being told? Why does this feel unfinished? Behind closed doors, family members were also feeling the weight. Sources say there were tense conversations at the dinner table, with loved ones urging caution. One family member allegedly said, "We've built too much to let this tear everything apart." Another reportedly worried about how deep the media would dig if the case went forward. The family was left divided, torn between standing firm and protecting their legacy. Then came the meetings with the legal team. According to insiders, these were not calm strategy sessions. Voices were raised. Tempers flared. One lawyer supposedly laid out a worst-case scenario that made the room go silent. It wasn't about losing the case. It was about what the process itself could expose. Even if the bishop won, the cost might be higher than anyone expected. At the same time, the church community was watching closely. Pastors, leaders, and longtime supporters began calling, offering advice, prayers, and warnings. Some urged him to fight. Others urged him to let it go. One well-known church figure allegedly told him, "Sometimes the strongest move is knowing when to walk away." That comment reportedly stuck. Duane Youngblood's camp, meanwhile, sensed the shift. Sources say they noticed delays, changes in tone, and a sudden willingness to talk. Rumors started swirling about quiet negotiations happening away from the public eye. No cameras. No tweets. Just conversations meant to never leave the room. Fans speculated about NDAs, settlements, and handshake agreements, even though nothing was confirmed. Then, almost out of nowhere, the decision was made. The lawsuit was dropped. No dramatic press conference. No detailed explanation. Just a brief statement and a lot of unanswered questions. People who expected fireworks were left staring at smoke. And that's where the real speculation began. Because dropping a lawsuit like this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Insiders say something shifted emotionally for Bishop T.D. Jakes. Some claim it was a moment of reflection, a realization that the fight was pulling him away from his mission. Others believe it was fear of what might surface if the case continued. The truth? It might be a mix of both. One source described a private moment where the bishop allegedly said, "I won't let this define me," but define him it already had, at least in the eyes of the public. Fans were dissecting every word, every pause, every expression. Emotions ran high, and trust began to feel fragile. As the dust settled, Duane Youngblood reportedly felt both relieved and unsettled. Relieved that the legal pressure eased, but unsettled because the story felt unfinished. People close to him say he wondered what was promised behind the scenes, and whether silence came with strings attached. "This isn't over," one person close to Youngblood allegedly said. "It just moved into the shadows." And that's exactly where part one of this story ends. With shadows. With questions. With a decision that raised more eyebrows than it answered. Because what happened next, according to insiders, is where things really started to get messy. The dropped lawsuit wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a much deeper unraveling that nobody saw coming. After the lawsuit was dropped, the silence didn't calm things down. It actually made everything louder. According to people watching closely, the lack of details created a vacuum, and that vacuum got filled with rumors, theories, and whispered conversations. Blogs started connecting dots that were never meant to be connected. Group chats lit up. Church members talked in hushed tones. And fans kept saying the same thing over and over again, "Something about this doesn't feel finished." Sources claim that just days after the paperwork was filed to end the case, a private meeting took place that changed the entire mood. No cameras. No phones allowed. Just a small circle of trusted people. One insider described the atmosphere as heavy, saying you could feel the tension before anyone even spoke. According to that source, the bishop sat quietly at first, listening while others talked around him. Legal advisors. Spiritual counselors. Family voices. All pulling in different directions. One person in that meeting allegedly warned that even without a lawsuit, the story had already taken on a life of its own. "The internet doesn't need a courtroom," they supposedly said. "They'll build one without us." That comment reportedly sparked a heated exchange. Emotions ran high, with some arguing that staying silent made things look worse, while others insisted that feeding the drama would only keep it alive. Meanwhile, on the other side, Duane Youngblood was also dealing with his own internal storm. People close to him say he felt like the narrative was slipping out of his hands. Without the lawsuit moving forward, he worried that his voice would be drowned out by speculation. One friend allegedly recalled him saying, "Now they'll say whatever they want, and I won't have a platform to respond. That fear pushed him to consider speaking out in other ways. Fans started noticing subtle moves. Vague posts. Cryptic quotes. Live streams that felt emotional but carefully measured. Every word was analyzed. Every pause became a headline. Some supporters believed these were signs of pressure behind the scenes. Others thought it was all part of a bigger strategy to control the story without going back to court. Inside the church community, the divide deepened. Longtime members reportedly questioned leadership decisions in private conversations. Younger followers debated online, some defending the bishop fiercely, others asking uncomfortable questions. One viral comment read, "Faith doesn't mean ignoring red flags." Another shot back, "This is exactly how attacks on leaders work." The family was left divided, not just by loyalty, but by fear of what this controversy might do long-term. According to insiders, the bishop's inner circle began focusing heavily on damage control. Not just reputation, but emotional well-being. Sleepless nights were becoming common. Sources say he was deeply affected by seeing his name trend alongside accusations and speculation. One person close to him claimed, "He's preached about storms, but this one hit home. The pressure wasn't just external anymore. It was personal." Then came another twist. Rumors started spreading about a possible behind-the-scenes agreement. Nothing on paper. Nothing public. Just an understanding to step back and let things cool off. Some claimed it involved mutual silence. Others suggested it was more about timing, waiting for public attention to move on. No one could confirm anything, but the fact that both sides suddenly went quieter only fueled the fire. Duane Youngblood's supporters weren't satisfied. Some urged him to tell his full story regardless of consequences. Others warned that speaking out could reopen wounds and invite more scrutiny. One supporter allegedly told him, "They dropped the lawsuit, but that doesn't erase what you went through." That sentiment echoed across social media, where people demanded transparency from everyone involved. At the same time, critics of Youngblood questioned his motives. They asked why he didn't push harder once the lawsuit was gone. Was he exhausted? Pressured? Or was there more happening behind the scenes than anyone realized? Speculation turned into conspiracy, and conspiracy turned into content. Reaction videos popped up overnight, each claiming to have exclusive insight or inside sources. Through all of this, the bishop remained publicly composed. Sermons stayed focused on faith, endurance, and forgiveness. But fans noticed subtle changes in tone. Certain words hit differently. Certain pauses lingered longer. Some listeners swore they could hear references to the situation hidden between the lines. Others thought that was just people projecting their own drama onto the message. One insider claimed there was a moment when the bishop privately questioned whether dropping the lawsuit actually made things worse. Without a clear ending, the story kept looping. "It's like closing a book without the last chapter," that source said. People will imagine whatever ending they want, and that uncertainty weighed heavily on everyone involved. As weeks passed, attention didn't fade the way some had hoped. Instead, it evolved. The narrative shifted from legal conflict to moral questions. Trust. Power. Silence. Accountability. Fans were shocked by how quickly opinions changed. People who once praised restraint now demanded answers. People who once demanded justice now argued for peace. And just when it seemed like the situation might finally cool down, another unexpected development began to surface. Quiet conversations hinted that someone, somewhere, was preparing to talk. Not in court. Not through lawyers. But directly to the public. According to sources, this possibility sent shockwaves through both camps. Because if someone decided to break the silence, everything could change again. Alliances could shift. Old wounds could reopen. And the decision to drop the lawsuit could suddenly look like the calm before a much bigger storm. And that is exactly where this story continues. as the tension moves from legal papers to something far more unpredictable. That possibility of someone finally speaking out changed everything. According to insiders, once word started circulating that a tell-all conversation might happen, phones began ringing non-stop. People who had been quiet suddenly wanted meetings. Advisors who had stepped back were pulled back in. The energy shifted from waiting it out to trying to get ahead of whatever was coming next. Sources claim that Duane Youngblood was approached by multiple people encouraging him to share his side in a controlled way. Not a random rant. Not a heated live stream. But a sit-down that would feel calm, reflective, and credible. One person close to him allegedly said, "If you're ever going to speak, this is the moment." Silence only helps the other side, but that advice came with fear. Because once words are out, they can't be pulled back. At the same time, the bishop's camp was also feeling the pressure. Insiders say there was concern that any public interview from Youngblood could reopen scrutiny that dropping the lawsuit was supposed to avoid. One advisor reportedly warned, "If he talks, people will ask why we walked away." That question alone carried weight. Because the answer wasn't simple, and it wasn't something that could be explained in a short statement. Behind closed doors, emotions ran high again. Sources describe heated conversations where frustration finally spilled over. One family member allegedly asked, "Was dropping the lawsuit really about peace, or about protection?" That question reportedly hung in the air, unanswered. It wasn't accusation, but it wasn't blind loyalty either. The family was left divided emotionally, even if they stayed united publicly. Meanwhile, fans were dissecting every new rumor. Clips from old sermons resurfaced. Past interviews were replayed with fresh suspicion. People read between lines that may not have been there before. Some supporters felt betrayed, saying they deserved clarity. Others doubled down, insisting that faith meant trusting leadership even when details were missing. The comment sections turned into battlegrounds. One surprising twist came when a former associate, someone no longer closely connected to either camp, allegedly started talking privately to bloggers. Nothing on record, just background conversations. According to rumors, these conversations painted a picture of long-standing tensions that predated the lawsuit entirely. Disagreements. Misunderstandings. Power struggles that had been buried for years. Fans were shocked by the idea that this conflict wasn't sudden, but simmering. Those rumors reached both sides quickly. Sources say the bishop was particularly troubled by the idea that outsiders might shape the narrative using half-truths. One person close to him claimed he said, "If stories are going to be told, they should be told right, but what was the right story? And who should tell it?" Those questions caused more division than clarity. Duane Youngblood, meanwhile, reportedly struggled with trust. After months of legal stress and public speculation, he wasn't sure who actually had his best interests at heart. Some urged patience. Others urged boldness. One friend allegedly told him, "They're counting on you staying quiet." That's the real leverage, but leverage cuts both ways. Speaking could empower him, or it could isolate him further. Another layer of drama emerged when whispers of faith-based mediation surfaced. According to insiders, there were talks about involving respected spiritual figures to help both sides reach closure privately. Not to settle legal matters, but emotional ones. Forgiveness. Understanding. Boundaries. Some believed this was a genuine attempt at healing. Others saw it as a way to keep everything out of public view. Fans reacted strongly to these rumors. Some praised the idea, saying reconciliation was more important than spectacle. Others felt it was a convenient way to avoid accountability. "Healing without truth is just silence," one comment read, going viral almost instantly. Emotions ran high, and every new piece of information seemed to create two more questions. Then came a moment that insiders describe as a turning point. During a private conversation, Duane Youngblood allegedly expressed feeling erased. "It's like the story ended without me," he supposedly said. That feeling of being written out pushed him closer to making a decision. People around him say he didn't want revenge. He wanted acknowledgement. Validation that his experience mattered. On the other side, sources say the bishop was wrestling with the cost of continued controversy. Not just for himself, but for his congregation, his family, and his legacy. One insider claimed he asked, "How much more can this distract from the work?" That question reveals the core conflict. The lawsuit may have been dropped to stop the bleeding, but the wound was still open. As rumors of a possible interview grew louder, both camps prepared for impact. Statements were drafted and redrafted, just in case. Trusted allies were briefed. Contingency plans were quietly discussed. Nobody wanted to be caught off guard again. Fans could feel it too. The tension online was thick, like everyone was waiting for a shoe to drop. And just when it seemed like Duane Youngblood might finally step forward publicly, something unexpected happened that stalled everything once more. According to insiders, a private message was sent. Not from lawyers. Not from the media. But from someone whose voice still carried emotional weight. What that message said hasn't been confirmed, but sources agree on one thing: it made him pause. That pause changed the timeline again. Interviews were delayed. Plans were reconsidered. Silence returned, but this time it felt heavier. More intentional. Fans were left confused and frustrated, wondering who was pulling the strings now. Because at this stage, it was clear that the dropped lawsuit was only one chapter in a much larger story about control, voice, and consequences. And as the silence stretched on, the question grew louder than ever. Not just why the lawsuit was dropped, but who really benefited from that decision. And that question leads directly into the next phase of this drama, where motives are questioned, alliances are tested, and the real cost of walking away starts to become clear. As the silence dragged on, people began to notice something else. While Duane Youngblood hesitated, the bishop's world slowly started returning to normal on the surface. Events went on. Appearances resumed. Sermons were clipped and shared like before. To some fans, it looked like relief. To others, it looked like control. And that contrast became the center of a new debate online. Sources claim that this is when the real reason behind dropping the lawsuit began to crystallize for those paying close attention. Not fear. Not guilt. But timing. One insider allegedly put it like this: a courtroom has no pause button. Life does. By stepping away from the legal process, the bishop regained control over the pace of the narrative. There would be no deadlines forcing disclosures. No judges compelling answers. Everything could move on his schedule. That realization hit Duane Youngblood hard, according to people close to him. He reportedly began to feel that the decision to drop the lawsuit wasn't mutual peace, but a strategic reset. One source said he felt like the ground rules changed without his consent. "I thought we were resolving something," he allegedly said. But it feels like it just got buried. That sense of being outmaneuvered added a new layer of frustration. Fans picked up on this shift too. Discussions moved away from legal jargon and toward power dynamics. Who gets to speak? Who gets believed? Who benefits from silence? Emotions ran high as people argued over whether walking away was wisdom or avoidance. Some supporters of the bishop insisted that peace was the priority. Critics argued that peace without clarity only protects the powerful. Behind the scenes, insiders say the bishop's team leaned heavily into the idea of moving forward. Not revisiting. Not rehashing. One advisor allegedly said, "The longer this stays quiet, the smaller it becomes." That belief shaped every move. Invitations were accepted selectively. Questions were redirected. No direct engagement with the controversy. Just forward motion. Duane Youngblood, on the other hand, struggled with that same forward motion. Sources say he felt stuck between wanting to heal and wanting to be heard. The private message that caused him to pause earlier reportedly came from someone he trusted deeply, urging him to think long-term. "Once you speak, you can't take it back," the message allegedly warned. That caution created an emotional standoff within himself. Another twist emerged when fans noticed that some people who had been vocal early on suddenly went quiet. Bloggers deleted posts. Commentators softened their tone. No clear explanation. Just a noticeable shift. Speculation exploded. Were people being asked to stand down? Were relationships being preserved behind the scenes? No proof surfaced, but the pattern fed the narrative that influence was at play. According to insiders, this is when the bishop began reframing the entire situation internally. Not as a conflict, but as a test. A trial of endurance rather than evidence. One person close to him claimed he said, "Storms don't always end with answers." That mindset helped him accept the unresolved nature of the situation, even as others struggled with it. The family dynamic also evolved. While earlier conversations were tense, sources say there was a collective decision to protect each other above all else. Unity became a shield. Public disagreement was avoided at all costs. Privately, questions remained, but outwardly, the message was clear: move on. The family was left divided emotionally, but disciplined publicly. For Duane Youngblood, that discipline felt like erasure. Friends say he began distancing himself from the noise, stepping back from social media, focusing on personal stability. But the story never fully left him. Every new comment, every reaction video, every theory felt like someone else telling his story for him. One friend allegedly said, "He doesn't want fame. He wants closure." Fans continued to debate the real reason the lawsuit was dropped. Some concluded it was mercy. Others believed it was calculation. A growing group argued it was both. The idea that dropping the lawsuit was the safest move, not the most righteous one, gained traction. It allowed everyone to claim a version of victory without risking exposure. And that's where this chapter settles. Not with a confession. Not with a verdict. But with a quiet understanding that the legal battle was never the real battlefield. The real fight was over narrative, legacy, and who gets to define the truth when courts step aside. According to insiders, that truth may never come out in full. Not because it doesn't exist, but because too many people benefit from letting it fade. The bishop moves forward with his platform intact. Duane Youngblood carries his story privately. Fans are left to fill in the blanks. And maybe that is the real reason the lawsuit was dropped. Not because the conflict was resolved, but because resolution would have required answers that no one was ready to give. In the end, walking away wasn't about ending the drama. It was about containing it. And as long as questions remain unanswered, this story will never really be over. So now that you've heard everything, the question is on you. After all the silence, the pauses, the private conversations, and the strategic moves, what do you really think happened behind the scenes? Do you believe dropping the lawsuit was about peace, faith, and moving on, or do you think it was about control, timing, and protecting certain narratives? Fans are still divided, emotions are still high, and the truth still feels just out of reach. This story doesn't end here. It lives in the unanswered questions, the quiet shifts, and the choices that were made off camera. And that's why your voice matters. Jump in the comments and tell us which side you're on, or if you think there's a whole different angle nobody's talking about yet. Keep it respectful, but keep it real. If you made it this far, make sure you hit that like button because it helps this video reach more people who are watching this situation closely. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next update, because if anything changes, if anyone finally decides to speak, you already know we'll be on it. And most importantly, share this video with someone who's been following this drama, because the more people talking, the harder it is for the real story to stay in the shadows.